What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about Brandon Sanderson, Oathbringer, Book 3 in the Stormlight Archive. If you guys don't want to be spoiled, I would watch the first minute and then don't watch anymore, because I'm going to be talking about other things after that. But if you liked Way of Kings and you like Words of Radiance, I think you're going to like Oathbringer. It's going to be more of the same when it comes to the other characters, Shallan, Kaladin, and Dalinar. I think that if you liked the way that Brandon Sanderson has been writing the first two books, you're obviously going to like the third book. For me personally, the third book is my favorite of the 5 books. I really like Words of Radiance, and that got a 5 out of 5 stars. Oathbringer, also 5 out of 5 stars for me. Most people I've seen tend to say Words of Radiance is better. For me personally, I just think that the action sequences in Oathbringer are better than the ones in Words of Radiance, but they're both 5 out of 5, so that's not really saying a whole lot. So yeah, I think if you liked Words of Radiance and Way of Kings, I think you'll also like Oathbringer. So now we're starting with the spoiler. Oathbringer, coming off the end of Words of Radiance, finding Urithiru, their Dalinar's fight with Seth. For me personally, the first two, the Words of Radiance and Oathbringer, I think Dalinar is the MVP. I think that Kaladin in book 1 was the MVP. I think that Oathbringer really starts coming into explaining Dalinar's past. I think that the backstory is, for me, the best backstory of all the characters. I think his change and just the differences between him as a younger character and him now are so drastic. It is honestly crazy. And it really just highlights why Dalinar is so different, why he is the way he is now. And in book 1 and a little bit in book 2, you're thinking to yourself, why is this character so uptight and so disciplined? Especially when you hear kind of like tidbits from the other characters that are talking about him and saying, you know, we don't trust this guy, or he's a bloodthirsty person, and none of the things that you see throughout the books show you that. So in book 3, you actually get to see how did he start his journey with Gavilar throughout their conquering and uniting Alethkar and having the one king that Gavilar was. And you also see kind of Dalinar's perspective throughout that process. What was he thinking about? What was his experience during and after Gavilar's death? His opinion of Navani, his alcoholism. So I think that just adds so much depth to Dalinar, and throughout the book, it highlights his backstory compared to his current story, and how things that he thinks about in the past are currently affecting him in the present. And that affects him when he confronts the thrill at the end of the book, when he unites the 3 realms, the cognitive, spiritual, and physical realms. And I think it is just so good in the way that it's written in the backstory. Yeah, reading this book has been phenomenal. I have never experienced so many hype moments before this. The part where Dalinar is just crumbling on the ground and the thrill is just going after him, and he ends up fighting him and Odium and ends up stepping up and ends up grabbing both realms and combining them together and saying he is unity. That was so amazing. I was so hyped for it. And when this is the first time that I really understood what a Sanderlanche was. When you have, it's just like pages, and then they get smaller and smaller, and the POVs change, and you have 7 POVs in one chapter, and it's like paragraphs long. So it really gets into the ambiance, into how to like get into the characters' heads when you're actually the battle scenes and how everything is being so hectic. And you have Dalinar crumbling on the ground, trying to combat that and become unity. You have Kaladin in Shadesmar on the ground, trying to say the 4th ideal, and he can't, and he's struggling. And you're thinking to yourself, like, oh, Kaladin has said it before, he should overcome this. You have Teft, who hates himself and is addicted to fire moss, and he's on the ground, and he's struggling, and he is trying to swear the 1st ideal and get his own spren, but the spren is the only one that believes in him, because Teft doesn't believe in himself. And then you have so many other characters. You have Venli, who's seeing Dalinar and not understanding what he is. You have Lift, who's currently holding Nightblade and about to die. You have Seth, who doesn't understand what's going on. You have the scene where all of the or most of the Radiant orders are portrayed, because you have Kaladin, you have Seth, you have Venli, you have Dalinar, and you have Lift, and it's just so good. Like, I think the ending to this book is so good. And mind you, I really like the ending to Words of Radiance, when they find Urithiru, when they, the battle between Seth and Dalinar, the battle between Seth and Kaladin. I think it's so good. But I just think the ending to Oathbringer is phenomenal. And you have Town, who comes back during the convergence between the different realms, and instead of hating the people that abandoned him, he appreciates the fact that they were able to hold out for so long, and that they gave humanity the opportunity to actually end everything once and for all, and to just overcome the return of the fused. Not to mention when you have Rock pull a shard bow with his bare hands, and I am so excited because the Horn Eater novella is supposed to come out. I believe it's next year, and I'm so excited because there's so many questions I have about the Horn Eater people, and I just feel like nothing about them has been answered, which I think is the intention, and that's why the novella should answer some of those questions. But there is just so many hype moments throughout this whole book that I just was like constantly like sweating reading this book. And I know I'm gushing over this because it is top 5 favorite books for me of all time. And even though I gave Words of Radiance and Oathbringer both 5 out of 5, for me, Oathbringer just had that much more, and I don't really know how to explain it other than that you just need to read it for yourself. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. You guys have a good one.